All right, inching closer to puck drop, January 13th. The NHL Players Association working hard on the final details to get us to the 2021 season. I'm Nick Kypreos. This is the Real Kyper at Noon show, off-season edition, joined by my colleague and sidekick, Doug Maclean, looking so relaxed out of FLA. What we want to do in the next few minutes is go over what we think potentially will look like the divisions come puck drop. How it ends up, well, we won't know until it actually happens, but this is the way we see things shaping up in the East Division. Of course, you want to get all the rundowns. Please make sure that you follow Real Kyper at Noon, subscribe, hit the like button, and pick your favorite team in your division and hear what the likes of Doug Maclean and I, Nick Kypreos, feel about your team. So let's get going here as we start picking out who's on the outside looking in the East Division. Let's go down to a relaxed Doug Maclean in FLA. You okay?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. I mean, it's the weather's good. I mean, it's in the mid 70s. It's going to cool off at Christmas, but look, I'm very comfortable in my skin, in my tan skin.
Look at me. I got a turtleneck on. I got a heavy coat. May have to go outside and shovel. Like, it's not fair.
I thought it was Steve Jobs when I first looked at you today.
Listen, about that Harry Rosen tie for Christmas, okay? You're off my list. Okay, Mac. You know who might be on the naughty list and not make the playoffs? New Jersey Devils in the East. I've got them at 8th.
I've got them as in the 8th spot, and I don't think anybody would disagree with that. I feel for my good friend Lindy Ruff and my former assistant coach Lindy and my former player Tommy Fitz, who are running the Devils now. Look, there's some bright spots with some kids there, but they are in a major rebuild. And right now, you know, they are not the worst team in the NHL, but at least probably the third from the bottom. You got to throw Detroit, LA in there. But I've got New Jersey in the 8th spot.
You know, over the last few years, we just assumed that first pick overalls will become rock stars overnight. That hasn't been the case with Jack Hughes. How important, regardless if New Jersey finishes dead last in this division or not, that he shows all of that promise, Mac, because we didn't see it in his rookie season.
Well, Jack Hughes has got to become the player they thought he was going to be, and a lot of people believed he really was the number one guy on most people's charts. I think that's a reason for the management coaching change there. There's a little frustration, and it's a big part of Lindy Ruff's job and Tommy Fitzgerald's job is to make sure that these youngsters, and there's a number of them there, along with Jack Hughes, develop and become better players.
Much like the North Division, once you get past that 8th spot in Ottawa, you expect teams to make the playoffs. At least management does on their respective teams. And I think that's the same case in the East, Mac. When we start talking about teams like Buffalo and the New York Rangers, there's a high expectation for a team, say, like Buffalo, with the likes of Taylor Hall, albeit for 1 year, to make some magic and get this team in a playoff position. But I don't see it that way. Do you?
Well, look, the Buffalo ownership would have expectations over the roof right now because of what the Buffalo Bills have been able to accomplish in the NFL. And they are not good enough. Taylor Hall was a head scratcher to me. I understand trying to appease Eichel. I understand trying to make it, but luckily, a 1-year deal, a head scratcher all the way around for me, why Taylor Hall would go there, why they would go that way. But you know what? There's just too many holes all the way around with this organization. And I have got them in the 7th spot. 7 and 8 to me are simple. That's where they're going to be.
I agree they're not a playoff team, Mac, but there's a chance that Eichel and Taylor Hall can make some magic here. They could put some points on the board, yet still miss the playoffs and call it a success. Do you not see that at all?
I agree with you, but I've said that too many times that I was going to see Taylor Hall magic with somebody, and Taylor Hall has been good, but Arizona, major disappointment, a disaster, to be quite honest, with him and Kessel going there. It worked out well in New Jersey short term when he went there. But you know what? This could be a great combination. I get that. But the surrounding cast, besides those guys and a couple other forwards and a couple of defensemen, it's simply not good enough.
Okay, this is where it really gets tricky here in the East, because this is when if Buffalo within their organization have playoff aspirations, there's a lot of people outside of these organizations that believe that these teams are going to make the playoffs, and someone's going to be bitterly disappointed here in the East. The question is it the Islanders, the Rangers, or even Pittsburgh, Mac? So let's start with number 6. Who is on the outside looking in at number 6?
Well, this is where you and I have a major disagreement, I'm sure. Obviously, you've got the Rangers tattooed on your ass.
No.
I am taking the Islanders to have a drop-off season. And I know I love Barry Trotz. I like lots of things about their team. I think they're a little thinner on the blue line now, losing 2 NHL regulars off the back end. I have got the Islanders in that spot. And people will think I'm crazy, but when I went through the numbers and look at it, I just can't get them up. I don't even have, obviously I've got the Rangers ahead of them. And to me, the Islanders are the next team.
Well, you're making the same mistake that people have been making the last few years, that this Islander team isn't good enough. And I agree on paper. Again, they don't look very good compared to others. But Barry Trotz comes in, he bores the shit out of us, and he wins games. And I will never underestimate Barry Trotz here in the ability to get 20 guys to do exactly what he wants. Is it entertaining at times? No. But he's not paid to entertain. He's paid to win games. That's where I have the Islanders in.
I think they hit on all cylinders last year. I think he did a marvelous job, and I know how good they were. When I look at them player by player, especially at the forward position and on the back end, they don't match up for me with the 2 NHL regulars that have gone from their back end. And up front, guys had great years last year. Let's hope it. When I looked at it, I hope I'm wrong here, but I've got them out.
The one thing that could throw a curveball in all of this is where Lou Lamoriello wants to go with his number 1 guy in Barzal. He's not signed yet, Mac. And the question is how good you want to make him feeling going into this season here. It doesn't appear like he's going to get one of those big, heavy contracts that so many of his peers have got locked in now. And we were hearing numbers of $10 million for this guy after the bubble. Doesn't appear like it's shaping up that way. You're an ex-general manager, a president. What would you do if you're Lou Lamoriello with Matthew Barzal?
Well, Lou Lamoriello, what he's accomplished, it's pretty hard to second guess him as a GM in the NHL. But to me, Barzal is what makes this offense tick. I'm sorry, I love Anders Lee, I love all those guys, but to me, Barzal makes this offense go. And you want to have Barzal in the right frame of mind. Albeit he's a kid and he'll get over whatever the situation is. But if he's not playing at an unbelievable high level, it is going to hurt this team. And to me, he is without a doubt their most offensive threat they have. And he makes other people around him better. And will be the interesting scenario here.
Okay, which brings us to a team that has been talking the last 10 years about contending Stanley Cups, thanks to the likes of Crosby and Malkin. I don't have them in, Mac. And I'm so torn over this because you never, ever underestimate Sidney Crosby. And I'll probably get kicked in the teeth for this, and they'll contend in the East. but there's something about this group that I didn't like in the bubble, and I don't like going into this season. I've got Pittsburgh out.
Yeah, and look, I mean, you've been right, and you're better as an insider than you are at projecting.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
I think with all due respect, you are an insider. You're not a real analyst. I look at the Pittsburgh Penguins and I say, okay, you've got Sid Crosby, you've got Malkin, you've got Gensel, you've got Kapanen. I still think there's enough there. And I think their blue line with Letang, Dumoulin, Marino had a terrific year last year at Harvard. Ceci joins the group. Matheson joins the group. I'm not in love with those guys. Jarry has had a good year in goal. DeSmith a backup. I'm sorry, I'm putting Pittsburgh in. I'm giving Pittsburgh the 4-hole here. I'm nervous saying it. But I'm putting Sid, a Maritimer, in that 4-hole.
I remember watching them against the Montreal Canadiens. And
they were awful.
There was a power play Mac that disgusted Sidney Crosby like I've never seen him on the ice before, where he just skated to the bench in disbelief of how bad they were. And I've never seen that side of Sid before. I just hope that there's enough support around him that can help him continue his magic there.
Look, I'm just not going to underestimate him, he makes other people around him better. Like, what can McCann do? What can some of these guys do? I think there's a mystique around Sid that when guys put on that Pittsburgh jersey, you better play at a certain level. I'm a little nervous taking the Islanders out. I even love the Rangers. I'm sorry, I love the Rangers, but I'm putting Pittsburgh in the 4 spot.
Okay, so we look at the Rangers. Alexis Lafreniere could come in and possibly play a top 6 role here. I'm sure they're going to protect him really early, Mac, in those games and see how he progresses. But outside of that, Zibanejad, Chris Kreider, say what you will about him, but when the big man's skating, there's very few in a power forward position that can carry that type of weight and that speed. But are the rest of them ready for prime time?
Well, look, I think as a forward group, they're really set up well. I mean, look at Zibanejad the year he had. You got Panarin, who's a superstar. You've got Lafreniere, who's coming in. I like Buchnevich. You got Kako. I mean, look, there's a group of guys there that are good players. I love their goaltending with the 2 kids. You pronounce their names. I know them, but I don't like pronouncing their names.
Mac, try
Shesterkin. What? What's his name? Shesterkin. He is a big-time talent. But here's the problem with the New York Rangers. Their blue line, other than New Jersey's, is the worst in the division. The blue line, I've got it rated as the number 7 blue line below the Buffalo Sabres blue line. So I love a lot of things that are going on there. I don't think this blue line can get the Rangers in the playoffs, but I love their forward group. Strome, look what he's accomplished. I love their goaltending. The blue line, to me, with all due respect to DeAngelo and Trouba and company, I don't have them as being in the top 7.
They made such a commitment to get Trouba, pay him top dollar, and yet I think there's many of us that believe he's not a true number 1 defenseman.
He does. He looks like a number 3 or 4 right now with the way he's performed.
That's an expensive ticket.
They need that to take Trouba to take a big step. But without that, I mean, I like Fox, I like DeAngelo, but after that, I'm sorry, I've got them rated as the 7th best blue line in the conference, so I don't have them in.
Okay, Mac, that brings us to the top 3 in the East Division. We've got Washington, we've got Philly, and if you think the Rangers are tattooed on my ass, you've got the Boston Bruins embedded, chiseled, okay? like a monument. That's how much you love the Boston Bruins. Where do you want to start?
Well, look, I'm going to start with the Boston Bruins, and I understand Pasternak's out for a while, and Marchand's out for a while. I'm taking that out of the mix. I'm counting them as being in, and I'm counting on Chara playing. So Chara's going to take a look at what the schedule looks like and all before he makes his final decision. So I understand they could have a sluggish start because of this, but I just think with the way this team is led by Bergeron, Marchand, and company, Chara, I just think they play too hard, too often. Obviously, I love their bottom six. I love Sean Corrali, what he brings to the table. When they don't have him in their lineup, they're a different team. I know he played minor hockey in Columbus, so I like that. But anyway, I've got the Bruins as the number one team. And I'll tell you, it's close between them and Washington. Very close. But I got the Bruins as number one and Washington number two.
Okay, so maybe I'll bring you a little insider information. We believe that Marchand will be ready by puck drop for the Boston Bruins. As you mentioned, Pastrnak, both suffering off-season injuries. Pastrnak, they're talking February, Mac, which, puts a lot of pressure on Boston to get out of the gate early. And then, you mentioned Chara. Yeah. And yes, Chara's not the player he used to be, but there seems to be this emotional attachment. We know he is the true leader in that room, Mac. Yeah. I'd like to see him back for one more chance in a shortened season.
Yeah, he and Bergeron are two of the best leaders in the NHL, hands down. And I just think I quietly they added Craig Smith, a guy that, to me is a 20 to 30 goal guy, a solid 200-foot guy. I think he really helps. So I just think that I think that with Washington's goaltending, and we haven't got into Boston's goaltending because let's hope that their number one guy is okay, his head's okay, and his family situation's okay. But I just see a difference in Boston being better in goal than the Washington Capitals. And I've got that as the main reason I've got Boston ahead of them.
Well, Tuukka Rask.
It's close. It's close.
Tuukka Rask just mentioned, will people forgive him if he doesn't get off to a good start leaving the bubble on the Boston Bruins? That still remains to be seen. No question he's a great goaltender. If his head's on straight and he gets out of the gate early, I think all can be forgiven on that if you're the hardcore Boston Bruin fan that challenged or did not agree with him leaving the bubble. Which leads us to the Washington Capitals, Mac, in terms of battling, say, the Philadelphia Flyers. The Flyers seem to have the advantage in goal with Carter Hart. Samsonov is the projected number one goaltender, but with Henrik Lundqvist now out of the lineup due to a heart ailment, where does the Washington Capitals go right now, Mac? And we know we've talked about Miller and Howard and Craig Anderson being out there, but I gotta think to find an experienced goaltender, Brian McClellan may have to even go off the board and make a trade.
Well, this is a critical position. We heard Jimmy Rutherford talking about the 56 goal game season, how critical backup goaltending and goaltending in general is going to be. They need to fix this. So Brian has to make a big move. Is it Craig Anderson, who seems to have a career year every second year? Is it Miller? Is it Howard? Those are the veteran guys that are out there. Or as you said, does he make a move? But whatever it is, he's got to solidify this position. I still have Washington a ways ahead of Philadelphia. I don't see Philly catching them, but Washington's goaltending is a bit of a concern. I love their blue line. They've got the best forward group. Them and Boston have by far the best forward group in the division. But they've got to fix the backup goaltending for sure.
If we talk about a dynamic duo having pressure this year, we point the finger a lot in Calgary with Monahan and Johnny Hockey Gaudreau. And yet we look at Philly, and how many cracks does Claude Giroux and Jacob Voracek get in leading this team? And do they have to, Mac, to go to another level, free up something somewhere, some way?
Well, look, I've got their forward group rated below Boston, Washington, Pittsburgh, and the New York Rangers. That's what I think of Philly's forward group. I think they're average. I think they've got to be, and I'm just going off what I saw last year, which was they were not a great group. They were not creative. They didn't play fast. They've got to be a lot better. And you named the two guys that are supposed to be their top two guys. They have got to be a lot better than what I saw last year. Carter Hart, I'm sold on. I love their blue line. I love the young. Niskanen's a loss. I get that, but I still love Provorov. I love Sanheim. I love Myers. I think they're going to be fine back there. But I'll tell you what, this forward group, you hit it on the head, Nick. They have got to be a lot better. They have underperformed, and I've got them, as I said, one of the fifth best forward group in this division.
Sean Couturier could end up being the next Patrice Bergeron. He's that good, Mac. And the name Travis Konechny is a guy that I hear if teams want to trade with the Flyers, that's the name that they want. And, you know, a lot of talk about, you know, Patrick Laine and whether or not the Flyers would be interested in him. Would you give up a guy like Travis?
I would give up. I mean, Laine to me is a guy that would fit tremendously with the Flyers. You know what? Konechny would be obviously Konechny and something else for Laine. I would love to see Laine with the Flyers, but I thought the same thing when JVR went there. I thought I'd like to see him with the Flyers, and I mean he was obviously quite a bit older than Laine at the time. But I mean, look, they've got to improve this forward group. They got to either play better or improve it, because as I said, like even though they beat Montreal, this team was played slow and they were not playmakers like they need to be in today's NHL.
Okay, there you have it, the Eastern Division. Doug Maclean's got his take. Yes, it's confirmed. He's a lifer Boston Bruin guy. Never get that out of his system. He's got Boston at number 1. I'll take the Washington Capitals. I think they're going to find their veteran goaltender, and they're going to be well on their way. I like the Washington Capitals. I think Ovi's hungry as ever. Forget about chasing Wayne Gretzky and the total goals, man. He's just chasing his second Stanley Cup. For all on the latest thoughts from Doug Maclean and myself on the Real Kyper at Noon show, click on one of these videos and see what our takes are on the various divisions as we inch closer to January 13th. If you loved what you saw, make sure you subscribe and hit the like button for my good pal, Doug Maclean. We'll see you real soon.